Good day everyone. We are the Group 4 and we are going to share to you our report about evaluating and grading purposes. I am Layden B. Marcos, the first reporter for this topic. Again, a blessed day to everyone. Today, I will share to you what are the purposes of evaluating and grading, who is involved in grading and evaluation, data and results, the value and dissemination of grading and evaluation, and the definition of grading and evaluation. Evaluating and grading purposes. Grading is to provide summative feedback for an individual student, while evaluation is to provide data to make judgment or decision. Primary focus is on summative or judgment. We all know that evaluation and grading are two important things that form the basis for us teachers to measure our learners' achievements. So, these two are important factors in the teaching and learning process. As I have read the information being presented, it is clearly stated that the different purposes of evaluation and grading. We all know that evaluation and grading are connected to each other. Dahil sa evaluation po, nire-require po tayong mga teachers to provide judgment or to provide data ng ating learners to which we can use it to measure their learning progress. For example po, we can use summative test. So, the summative test is one way to evaluate the learner's progress, and kapag po na-measure na po natin yung final judgment or yung data are ready po, so we can use this data to provide po the feedback for students' progress. So, nabubuo po natin dito yung grades or dun nga po sa grading. Who is involved in evaluating and grading? In grading, instructor or teachers determines what is graded and criteria for grading. In evaluation, questions originate from key stakeholders and users of the evaluation findings. So, dito po sinasabi kung sino nga po ba yung involved in grading and evaluation. In grading po, sinasabi po dito na ang teacher ay nagde-determine po sa kung ano po yung i-grade po niya or bibigyan po niya ng grade and criteria for grading. For example po dito ay yung pagbibigay po niya ng mga activities or tasks that are aligned in a specific content po or topic na kanila pong pinag-aaralan. So, yung teacher na po mismo ang nagbibigay or paano po ba niya ibinibigay yung grades sa bawat learners and the criteria for grading. While in evaluation po, questions originate from key stakeholders and users of the evaluation findings nga po. So, nanggagaling po ang evaluation sa kung ano po yung specific content po na itinuturo ng mga mag-aaral na which is aligned in the curriculum that being used po. Data and results. Grading reflects individual students' performance on courses or course assignments. May reflect class management goals related to student behavior that are separate from learning such as attendance, participation, meeting deadlines. And evaluation answers questions, quality and importance judged by stakeholders and those who will use the findings to make decisions. So, sinasabi nga po dito na ang in grading or sa grades po, ito po ay nagre-reflect sa kung ano po ang students' performance or individual performance ng mga estudyante po natin sa course or sa subject po natin. So, dito po, gaya nga po ng sinasabi ko kanina, na yung teacher po ay nagdedetermine sa kung ano yung bibigyan niya ng grades at kung ano yung criteria po for grading. So, dito nga po, ang isa po sa mga grade po ng isang teacher ay yung student behavior, na kung saan nakaseparate po ito sa learning. Kasama po dito ay yung attendance, participation, and meeting deadlines. Dito po, yung teacher ay nagbibigay rin po ng grades. So, sa evaluation naman po, dito na po pumapasok yung result po nung evaluation po na ginagawa natin na nagpro-provide po ng data ng mga learners. So, dito po sinasabi na napaka-importante nung quality ng evaluation para po sa paggawa po natin ng judgment or decisions paano po tayo mag-regrade. In terms po of value in grading, it provides a representation of individual performance, and in evaluation, the ability to use results to judge the merit or worth of a program, course, or activity. So, in grading po or in grade, so eto na po, i-provide na kung ano nga ba yung representation sa kung paano nasukat or na-measure yung individual performance po. Kung ito ba ay nagiging successful at kung nagpo-progress ba yung mga learners po natin. Nalalaman po natin sa evaluation naman po yung kung worth it po ba ang isang program or activity na ibinibigay po natin sa ating mga mag-aaral, dahil dito po nasusukat po natin sa kung ano po yung progress po nila. Dito na po natin makikita yung resulta po nung pagtuturo nating mga teachers sa ating mga learners. And in terms po ng in dissemination, in grading, it can be letters, marks, points to an individual. In evaluation, it is report to stakeholders. So, dito po sa grading, in terms of dissemination, we use letters, marks, or points to ginagawa po natin siyang symbol kung paano po natin mai-indicate or masasabi kung ano po yung degree to which learners are able to achieve the intended learning outcomes po. So, dito po, sinisimbolo po ng letters, marks, or points ang outcomes po ng progress po ng isang learner. While in evaluation naman po, ito po ay sinasabi nga po rito na it is report to stakeholders. So, dito po, yung evaluation are nami-measure po natin or nai-evaluate po yung effectiveness of an instructional program po na kung saan maaari pong sa evaluation na ito makikita po natin kung nagiging successful po ba yung educational programs or instructional program na ginagamit po to ma-develop natin sa ating learners ang skills and competence na ina-achieve po ng bawat curriculum or ng isang objective na matutunan po ng bawat learners. Definition of grading and grades. Grading is a way for educators to evaluate each individual student's performance and learning. Grading can include letter grades, percentage, and even a simple pass or fail. Grades should be a major source of data when evaluating students' progress. However, assessment goes beyond grades. And grades are alphabetical or numerical symbols or marks that indicate the degree to which learners are able to achieve the intended learning outcomes. So, dito po, napakaliwanag naman po nung definition ng grading. So, dito po, nagsiserve ang grading na it is a process to which we give such grades to students doon po sa way kung paano po natin ini-evaluate po yung performance and learning ng isang student. So, sinasabi nga po dito na maaaring i-include sa grading ay yung letter grades, percentage, or even pass or fail po. So, dito po, pwede po nating ibigay ang mga grades na ito sa ating students depending on their performance and learning. So, sinasabi nga rin dito na it is a major source of data. So, major source of data in a way na dahil sa grading, nai-evaluate po natin or dahil po sa grading, nasusukat po natin yung performance and learning ng mga bata, which is we are using assessment or evaluations para po makapag-provide po tayo ng grading or the process or magamit po natin yung pag-grade po sa bawat performance and learning ng mga mag-aaral po natin. So, dito po sa grades naman, sinasabi na it is the symbol or marks na nag-i-indicate the degree to which learners are able to achieve the intended learning outcome. So, eto na po, yung grades ang resulta ng kung ano po yung performance and learning ng isang estudyante na kung saan yung mga teachers po or tayong mga teachers ang nagbigay na sa kanila nito sa kung paano po natin sila grenade. Kung based ba ito sa performance nila or based on their learning. So, eto po, yung grades na po, yung resulta ng sa kung hanggang saan po ba yung na-achieve po nila doon po sa kanilang intended learning outcomes. So, dito na po nagtatapos ang aking report in evaluation and grading purposes. Thank you po.
Hello, I am Jessica de la Cruz Mazo and I am the second reporter. My report is all about the purpose of grade and the major type of grading system. How do you grade and evaluate students? Number 1, creating assignments. 2, creating exams. Number 3, using classroom technique. Number 4, using concept maps. 5, using concept test. Number 6, assessing group work. And number 7, creating and using rubric. In creating assignments and exams and assignments should focus on the most important content and behaviors emphasized during the course. You should consider the learning outcomes you are going to grade or measure. Exams and assignments should focus on assessing students' application and analysis skills. Using classroom techniques are quick evaluations of student learning to provide information about the student learning before students are evaluated on exams or assignments. This includes questions and answer or recitation, simple questionnaire for the students' participation. Concept maps can be used as visual teaching tool. It is a visual representation of knowledge, while in concept test, it is a short test used during class whether students understand key concepts. It is used to assess students' prior knowledge. In assessing group work, it encourages collaboration and cooperation among students, while in creating and using rubrics, it increases the efficiency of grading, transparency, and consistency in grading. How do you evaluate grades? Number 1 is change weighing scale. Weight should not be shifted to assignments in which students receive higher grades unless learning can be accurately assessed. It can reduce impact of assignment on which students consistently receives low grades despite adequate effort and supports. The second way on how to evaluate grades is the use of informal observation. It is a way that teachers can collect qualitative data about a student's progress and development without relying on scores from their academic work from other teachers. Another way on how to evaluate grades is allowing for self-assessment. It is an opportunity for students to reflect on their own work with the goal of learning more, making the work better, and improving the chances for a good grade. Self-assessment is not the same as self-grading. Rather, students are looking at their work and judging the degree to which it reflects the goals of the assignment and the assessment criteria the teacher will be using to evaluate the work. Next is provide multiple test format. In evaluating grades, you are going to provide multiple test format according to their skills and the content of the lesson, such as multiple choice, enumeration, or essay type. You are going to provide that multiple test format that is capable or aligned with the content of the lesson. Serves as a feedback on what specific topic learners have mastered and what they need to focus more when they review for summative assessment or final exams. Grades serve as a feedback loop between the teacher and learners. Dito kasi malalaman kung hanggang saan yung natutunan ng bata sa isang lesson. Dito din masusukat kung hanggang saan yung level ng pagkatuto ng mga bata in an specific course content at kung saan yung dapat nating i-focus, kung saan ba sila mahina. As a motivator for learners to study and do better. Kasi nga, pag alam ng mga bata or nakikita ng mga bata yung grade nila kung mataas ba or mababa, mas nagiging motivated silang matuto at ayusin yung kung saan ba sila mahina. Grades give the parents who have the greatest stake in learners' education and information about their children's achievement. So, through grade, nalalaman ng mga parents din kung hanggang saan ba yung natututunan ng bata, kung nag-i-improve ba yung mga bata. At nagkakaroon na din ng dito na po pumapasok yung appreciation ng mga parents sa pagpupursige ng mga estudyante or ng mga anak nila. Grades provide teachers some basis for improving their teaching and learning practices and for identifying learners who need further educational intervention. So dito po, yung mga teacher ay magkakaroon sila ng basis kung paano ba nila i-improve yung way ng pagtuturo nila at pagkatuto ng mga bata. Kasi dito po nalalaman kung namimit ba ng objective or kung naituturo ba ng maayos yung lesson at nalalaman through grade din po, nalalaman po ng mga teachers kung sino ba yung mga estudyanteng nangangailangan pa ng tutok upang lalong matuto. Grade is useful to school administrators who want to evaluate the effectiveness of the instructional programs in developing the needed skills and competencies of the learners. So dito po pumapasok kung maayos ba yung curriculum na nai-implement sa mga estudyante, kung kung gaano ba ka-effective yung mga instructional programs na kung saan nadidevelop yung mga needed skills ng mga bata at mga competencies na and performance standards na dapat ma-meet ng mga bata. Report cards and other official reports of student progress. Two major types of grading system. Criterion reference grading system. A grading system wherein learners' test scores or achievement levels are based on their performance in specific learning goals and outcomes and performance standard. It provides a measure on how well the learners have achieved the present standards regardless of how everyone else does. Criterion reference grading is premised on the assumption that learners' performance is independent of the performance of the other learners in their group or class. Criterion reference grading is a first major type of grading system. There is a fixed target in criterion reference grading, and the student must achieve that target in order to obtain a passing grade in a course, regardless of how the other students in the class perform. The students involved in collaboration but graded as individual depending on the criterion reference grading given. The criterion reference grading is a standard of performance. Types of criterion reference scores or grades. First is pass or fail grade. This type of score is most appropriate if the test or assessment is primarily or entirely to make a pass or fail decision. In this type of scoring, a standard or cut-off score is preset, and a learner is given a score of pass if he or she surpassed the expected level of performance or the cut-off score. It is also most appropriate for comprehensive or licensure exams because there is no limit to the number of the examinees who can pass or fail. Pass or fail grade seeks to partially ease the burden of grades so students can focus on getting the most out of their school experiences. It is most often used in college students, most especially with the online learning at times of coronavirus pandemic. The system of pass or fail grading means that instead of the traditional grading where you receive a letter grade from A to F, your grade becomes a binary, either you pass or you fail. So dalawa lang yung pagpipilian, either you pass or you fail. So here are some of advantages of pass or fail grade. First is that it takes pressure off the learners in getting a higher letter or numerical grade, allowing them to relax while still getting the needed education. It allows students to engage more deeply in the course content, forgetting the pressure to receive an A on every assignment. It gives learner a clear-cut idea of their strengths and weaknesses. It allows learners to focus on true understanding or learning of the course content rather than on specific details that will help them receive a high letter of numerical score. It removes stigma around poor grades because in traditional grading system, lower grade can discourage students and make them afraid to ask for help. So here are some disadvantages of pass or fail grade. First is that it does not provide accurate representation of performance level and knowledge of the learners. It is not possible to convert to exact score kasi nga po yung grading system is pass or fail. Wala po siya kung yung level kung nasa kung ilan ba kung A to F or 90 to 100 kasi naka-steady lang po siya sa pass or fail. Performance no longer matters. Students are taught only to be good enough rather than to work harder to raise the bar. So dito nga, nagko-conclude na yung mga estudyante na yung performance ay kumbaga wala nang halaga as long as nag-aaral ka or pumapasok ka, magkakaroon ka pa rin ng grade. Hindi gaya pag hindi pass or fail ang ginagamit na grading system, nagwo-work hard or nag-strive hard ka para makaabot ka sa passing score or sa plat 1 or sa mataas na grade.
classmate. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Lourdes Lachica reporting about letter grading and variation. So, letter grading and variation is one of the most commonly used grading system. It is usually composed of 5 grading scaled level from A to E or F. We have 5 description here. So the letters A, letter B, the letter C, and the letter D, and the letter E. So letter grades. So we have interpretation in the letter A. The letter A is excellent, and the letter B is good. Ito nga daw po ay, ang excellent daw po ay mahusay. At ang letter B ay good. Ito nga po ay mabuti. At ang satisfactory ay kasiyasiya. At ang poor ay mahirap. At ang letter E ay unacceptable. So, hindi katanggap-tanggap. So, yan po yung 5 description ng letter grading and variation. So, ang advantages po nito ay ito po. Letter grades look simple and easy to understand. So, napakadali po siyang, simple daw lang po siya at napakadaling maintindihan. So, andito po, yan po yung advantage ng letter grading and variation. So, may mga disadvantage din po siya. Ito po ay, sa number 1 po ang the disadvantage of letter grading and variation. Number 1 bullet is the true meaning of letters is not always clear to learners, parents, or other stakeholders. And bullet number 2, the letter grades is only best if the description are paired with specific performance. Bullet number 3, cut-offs between grade categories are always arbitrary and difficult to justify. For example, if a score of C range from 76 to 85, learners who get a grade of 76 in a writing test and those who receive a grade of 85 will both get the same letter grade. So, andun po, sinabi niya po doon. And the bullet number 3 na disadvantage ng letter grading and variation, letter grades lack the richness of more detailed grading methods. So, sinasabi po dito, ang disadvantage ng mga sa letter grading and variation. So, napakaliwanag po ng disadvantage niya. So, dito po sa susunod na topic is plus and minus. So, nakalagay po dito, letter grades. This grading provides a more detailed description of the level of learners, achievements, or test performance by dividing each grade category into 3 levels, such that a grade of A can be assigned as A+, then A and A minus, B as in B+, B as in B minus, and so on. Plus and minus grade provides the finer discrimination between achievements or performance level. So here are the example of letter grades. A+, the interpretation of A+ is excellent. The interpretation is superior. The A- is very good, and B+ is good. V, very satisfactory. B- high average. C+, average. And C, letter C is the interpretation is fair. C-, the interpretation is pass. And D, the interpretation is conditional. And E and F, the interpretation is failed. These are very clear na maintindihan po ng mga nanay. So, ito po ang interpretation po ng letter grades. Advantages ng letter grades ay it is increase the accuracy of grades as a reflection learner's performance. So, enhance student motivation to get high and rather than an A minus. So, nandito po yung disadvantage din niya. Discrimination, bullet number 1, discrimination among the performance and very similar pool of learners such as those in advanced courses or stars section. And the bullet number 3 is plus minus grading system is viewed as unfair, particularly for learners in the highest category. Bullet number 5 creates for stress for learners. Yes, ito po ay nakaka-stress talaga yung mga disadvantage ng mga learners. Then, most difficult for teachers as they need to deal with more grade categories when being learners. So, andyan po yung advantages at disadvantages ng grading. So, napakaliwanag po niyan. At hanggang dyan na lang po yung aking report. Naway intindihan niyo po. Maraming salamat po.
Hello everyone, my name is Mary Grace D. Obligado. I am the 4th reporter in our group, and let me discuss you the last types of criterion reference scores or grades, which is the categorical grades. The examples of categorical grades are listed in the table. If it exceeds the standards, teacher gives advanced, exemplary, expert, and master. If it meets the standards, teacher will give or label it intermediate, accomplished, proficient, or distinguished. If it approaching standards, teacher will give or label it basic, developing, competent, or proficient. If it emerge standards, teacher will give or label it novice, beginning, apprentice, or intermediate. If it not exceeds the standards, teacher will give or label it below basic, inadequate, novice, novice. Categorical grading method have the same drawbacks as letter grades. Like letter grades, the categorical grades provide cut-offs between levels that are often arbitrary, lack the richness of more detailed reporting methods, and fail to provide feedback or information that can be used to diagnose learners' weaknesses and refer for remediation. And now let's talk about another major type of grading system, which is the norm reference grading system. In this method of grading, learners' test scores are compared with those of their peers. It involves rank ordering learners and expressing a learner's score in relation to achievement of the rest of the group. For example, class or grade level, school, etc. The peer group usually serve as the normative group, and when we say normative group, it refers to a segment of a studies or a test population that displays normal or typical behaviors to that being examined. For example, class, age group, or year level. Unlike the criterion reference scoring, norm reference scoring does not tell what the learner actually achieved, but it only indicates learner achievement in relation to their peers' performance. It allows teachers to compare learners' test performance with that of other learners. Compare learners' performance in one test subtest with another test subtest. Compare learners' performance in one form of the test with another form of the test administered at an earlier date. So there are different types of norm reference scores. These are developmental score, percentile rank, Stanine score, and standard scores. First one is developmental score. This is the score that has been transformed from raw scores and reflect the average performance at age and grade levels. There are two kinds of developmental score. 1. Grade equivalent score, and 2. Age equivalent score. Grade equivalent is described as both a growth score and a status score. The grade equivalent of a given raw score on any test. Raw score means it the number of items that are answered correctly on a test. It indicates the grade level at which the typical learner earns this raw score. It describes test performance of a learner in terms of a grade level and the month since the beginning of the school year. A decimal point is used between the grade and month in grade equivalents. For example, a score of 7.5 means that the learner did as well as a grade 7, taking the test at the end of the 5th month of the school year. Age equivalent score. It indicates the age level that is typical to a learner to obtain such a raw score. It reflects a learner's performance in terms of chronological age as compared to those in the norm group. Age equivalent scores are written with a hyphen between years and months. For example, a learner's score of 11 to 5 means that his age equivalent is 11 years and 5 months old, indicating a test performance that is similar to that of 11 and 1/2 years old in the norm group. Percentile rank. This indicates the percentage of scores that fall at or below given score. Percentile ranks range from 1 to 99. For example, if a learner obtained a score of 75th percentile rank in a standardized achievement test, it means that the learner was able to get a higher score than 75% of the learner or peers in the norm group. Percentile ranks are not equal interval data, with differences in percentile ranks at the extreme or end range larger than they are in the middle ranges. For example, the differences between 90 and 95 percentile ranks and between 5 and 10 percentile ranks are larger than the differences between 50 and 55 percentile ranks.
Okay po, I'm next reporter, Charin Imosong from BEd 3F. Now po, ang i-report ko po ay continuation lang po sa ini-report ni Ma'am Mary Grace Obligado, na kung saan ma-identify po natin ang different types of norm reference scores. Dito sa different types of norm reference scores, meron tayong 6 na types. Ito yung developmental scores, grade equivalent scores, age equivalent scores, and per child rank, and STEAM scores, and standard scores. So pag sinabi po nating STEAM scores, this system express the test result in the 9 equal steps, which range from the lowest to the 9 highest. STEAM scores of 5 is interpreted as the average STEAMs. Percentile rank are grouped into the STEAMs with the following interpretation. So dito sa STEAM scores, ma-identify po natin kung ilan po lahat ang pinapagawa ng teacher na activity, and then ma-identify po din natin kung ilan lahat din ang nakuha ng ating mga learners raw scores. Yan po ang tinatawag po nating STEAM scores. So doon, ma-identify po natin kung ilan yung average na nakukuha ng ating estudyante. Standard scores, they are raw scores that are converted into the common scales of measure that provide meaningful description of the individual scores with the distribution. As a standard scores describe the difference of the raw scores from the sample mean expressed in the standards deviation. So pag sinabi po nating standard scores, ito na yung kinalabasan kung ano yung ilan yung nakuha ng standard learning ng ating mga estudyante. And then, bago natin makukuha to, dadaan mo na siya ng formula. I-convert mo na natin. I-convert na natin siya doon sa final average. So, bago po natin makuha yung final average, siyempre po, i-compute muna na natin yan. And then, makikita na natin doon yung final average ng mga estudyante natin. So, dito po, makikita na po natin yung test performance na ating mga estudyante, and then ito yung example ng formula ng ating standard scores. Dito sa column A meron tayong standard deviation. Sa class A may 1, class B may 5. Sa mean scores naman meron siyang 85, and then sa class B is 90. Sa students of score of student 1, meron si Louis ng 90, and then si Michael merong 95. Kung susundan po natin yung formula, yung kay Louis equals to 90 minus 85 over 1. Kaya ang kinalabasan po ay 5. And then kay Michael naman po is 95 minus 90 over 5. Kaya ang kinalabasan po ay 1. Kaya pinag-minus lang po siya. And then, yung pangalawa po ay yung T-scores is another types of standard scores wherein the mean equal to 50 and the standard deviation is equals to 10. It is the linear transformation of G scores which have mean of and standard deviation. It is computed from A to Z scores with the following formula. So, ito na yung nagiging formula niya. T equals 50 plus 10 G. So, yun yung nagiging formula dito sa pangalawang ginagamit nating pangalawang standard scores. And then, sa T-scores of 50 is considered the average. So, yung 50 daw, kino-consider natin na yun na yung average. With the T-scores range from 40 to 60 as within the normal range. Yung 40 to 60 ay tinatawag nating normal range. And then, the T-scores of 30 and below at the T-scores of 70 and above are interpreting as low and highest test performance respectively. So dito makikita na natin na nagsisimula yung score natin sa 30 and below or above the 70. Ayun, mai-interpret na daw or ma-identify na natin kung asan yung low and highest. So dito makikita na natin kung alin ba ang kahinaan ng ating estudyante and then strength ng ating estudyante by using this standard scores po. And makikita din natin dito kung ano yung mga pwede nating i-adjust na pwede nating i-apply sa ating mga estudyante. So, sa susunod po na makikita po natin yung mga formula, kung ano yung mga formula na ginagamit po according to standard scores po. Ayan, dito na natin makikita yung standard scores or yung tinatawag nating standard deviation. Na kung mapapansin nyo po, itong line na ito yung pataas and then pababa, ay yun yung tinatawag nating normal bell-shaped curve. Ito namang may 13%, 2.14%, 3.59% ay tinatawag naman siya ng percentage of case in the 8th portion of the curve. Ito namang negative 4A, negative 3A, negative 2A, and then negative 1 or 0 at saka positive 1A, positive 2A, positive 3A ay tinatawag naman natin ang standard deviation motivate percentage. Sa fertiles naman, ito yun. Mapapansin mo po dito sa fertiles po, ayan, mga 1, 5, 10, 20, yan yung mga fertiles. Sa Z-score naman, ito yung negative 0.40, negative 0.30, yan yung mga tinatawag nating Z-scores. Sa T-scores na po, ay ito yun, may 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, ayan. Yun yung tinatawag na T-scores. Standard 9 or yung stainness po natin or yung percentage and the stain, ayan na siya. Ito na yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, 4%. And then, ayan, 7%, 12%. Ayan na yung kinalabasan na 17%, 20%, 12%, and 7%. And that's all lang po ang aking i-report and thank you po sa pakikinig and salamat po na meron po kayong naintindihan sa aking report and then thank you po ulit.
This is Marjorie P. Obsena, the next reporter. Guidelines in grading test or a performance standard. Grading performance assessments has the purpose of determining an accurate and meaningful indicator of each student's degree of achievement on the learning goals that a task was supposed to demonstrate. So these are the guidelines in grading test or a performance standard. First, stick to the purpose of assessment, which means keep the assessment's goal in mind para magkaroon ng accomplishment yung gagawin natin. Siyempre, kung di natin isiset ito na goal, hindi magiging successful yung gagawin at siyempre mas maganda yung result kapag stick tayo sa purpose ng assessment. Second is, be guided by the desired learning outcomes. We should follow the desired learning outcomes as a guide. Third, develop grading criteria. we should develop grading criteria and create grading standard. Fourth is inform learners what scoring methods are to be used. So we should inform students on the scoring procedures that will be used for them to know kung paano makuha yung score nila at paano pa yung procedure ng pagkuha natin ng scores. Last is number 5. Decide on what type of test score to use. Choose the type of test scores you utilize. So these are the guidelines of grading test or performance task of a learner. General guidelines in grading essay test. Unlike a math problem that has a single correct answer, an essay consists of a number of variables. Below are listed some guidelines in that instructors follow when grading essay. So here are the general guidelines in grading essay test. First, identify the criteria for rating the essay. Second, determine the type of rubric to use. 3. Prepare the rubric. 4. Evaluate essay anonymously. 5. Score one essay question at a time. 6. Be conscious of own classes when evaluating a test paper. 7. Review initial scores and comments before giving the final rating. 8. Get 2 or more raters. And the last, write comment. New grading system of the Philippines K-12 program. April 1, 2015, the Department of Education, through DepEd Order Number 8, Series of 2015, announced the implementation of a new grading system for all grade level is in public school from elementary to senior high school. The grading system is described as a standard and competency-based grading system where 60 is the minimum grade needed to pass a specific learning area, which is transmuted to 75 in the report card. The lowest mark that can appear on the report card is 60% for quarterly grades, and final grades will be based on the weighted raw score of the learner's summative assessments based on 3 components: written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment. So here are the steps and examples of grading system of the Philippine K-12 program. So as you can see, the get total score for each component. Example is written works 1 plus written works 2 is equal to written works the total. Example, 145 out of 160. Performance task 1 plus performance task 2 plus performance task 3 is equal to the total of performance task. Example is 100 out of 120. And the quarterly assessment is equal to 40 over 50. So, convert to percent. The written works 145 over 160 converted to 90.63. The performance task, which is 100 over 120, is converted to 83.33. And the quarterly assessment, which is 40 over 50, is converted to 80%. So, convert percent to weighted score. So, set assigned weights for each component in next table. So, for written works English, 90.63 times 0.30 is equal to 27.19. For performance task English, 83.33 times 0.50 is equal to 41.67. And for English, the quarterly assessment, 80 times 0.20 is equal to 16. So, add weighted scores for the initial grade. Initial grade for English, 27.17 plus 41.67 plus 16 or 0.16 is equal to 84.86. Transmuted initial grade to quarter grade. So, use transmutation table for DepEd order number 8, series of 2015. For 84.86 na nakuha natin kanina, itra-transmute natin ito into 90, which is the quarterly grade.
Good day, ma'am. I am Ramil Pilapas and I am the 7th reporter, and my report is all about weights for the 3 components for grade 1 to 10 and senior high school. So, as you can see, this is an example of components for grade 1 to 10, and these components included po dito yung written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment. Same with all the subjects in all different areas and also the percentage. So, dito po sa senior high school, dito po yung computation kung paano makukuha yung quarterly grades for MAPE. So, quarterly grades for MAPE is equal to quarterly grades for music plus quarterly grades for arts plus quarterly grades for PE plus quarterly grades for health divided by 4. The final grade for each subject is then computed by getting the average of the 4 quarterly grades. So, final grades for each learning areas is equal to first quarterly grades plus second quarterly grades plus third quarterly grades plus fourth quarterly grades divided by 4. The general grade, on the other hand, is computed by getting the average of the final grades for all subject areas. Each subject area has equal weight, so general average is equal to sum final grades of all learning areas divided by total number of areas in a grade level. So, all grades level reflected in the report card are reported as whole numbers. So, ito po yung example ng report card ng ating estudyante in grade 1 to 10. So, dito naman po, we also have a descriptor, the grading system, and also the remarks. So, how should test results be communicated to different stakeholders? Since grades serve as an important feedback about learners' level of performance or achievement, teachers should communicate the test result to the learners, their parents, and other stakeholders. Feedback on how will the learners perform on a test or any performance task has been proven to help them improve their learning. If test results are to serve as a mechanism to inform learners on what, where, and how they should improve in their work and learning as a whole, then an effective and efficient reporting system should be in a place. Teachers should come up with guidelines and processes on how grades are to be communicated and presented to make them clear, understandable, and relevant to the recipients. Unless the test results are communicated effectively, the purpose of assessment is not likely to be achieved. First, the rationale or purpose of testing and the nature of the test administered to the learner should be clearly explained. This is especially the for high-stake testing, such as those use placement, admission, grade level, promotion, graduated decision, as well as for IQ for psychological testing, we are more likely to misinterpreted. It is important to inform the student and their parents that tests are only one of several tools to assess their performance or achievement, and that they are not evaluated on the basis of one test alone. Second, The meaning of test score should be explained. For norm reference testing, terms such as percentile rank, STA9, standard scores, and the like should be explained clearly. Similarly, standards or criteria used for criterion reference testing should be thoroughly described and clarified to the recipients. Finally, learners and parents should be made to understand the meaning or interpretation of their test record or scores. Teachers have the better grasp of the learner's capability in school. As such, they are in the best position to explain, especially to the parents, how far the test scores are from their classmates or other learners in other classes, on what topics, subject areas, or competences they are good at should improve on, and whether or not they are working up to their potential. So here in last slide, what to see in report card. So first, detail of the students, their names, their age, grade level and section, school year, sex, and also the LRN. The second one, report on learning progress and achievements such as learning areas or the different subjects, quarters, final grades, and remarks if it is passed or failed. For the number 3, on learning report on learners observed values, their behavior, their action, and also their participation. For the number 4, report on attendance and parents, guardian signature. This will happen when having a cards day. And that's all. Thank you.
A blessed day, everyone. I am Jessalyn B. Nicolas, the 8th reporter.
So, how should test results be communicated to different stakeholders? So, papaano daw natin maipapamahayag o maisasabi o maipapamigay yung test results sa iba't ibang stakeholders natin. No? Pag sinabi nating stakeholders, sila yung mga tao outside the school na nakakatulong sa atin to help us for the progress of both learners and the school. So the first one is, teachers should communicate the test results to learners, their parents, and other stakeholders. So, dapat daw ang guro or yung teacher, dapat sinasabi niya or ipinapailam niya yung resulta ng test results ng sa mga bata, sa kanilang magulang, or sa ibang stakeholders. The second one, feedback on how well the learners performed on a test or any performance task has been proven to help them improve their learning. So, kailangan daw meron tayo feedback o meron tayong mga ilang mga napansin sa mga pagbabago, may development ba doon sa performance ng bata na ibinigay natin, na makakapag-prove na meron ba silang progress. So, kailangan magbigay din tayo ng feedback as a teacher. And then, teachers should come up with guidelines and processes on how grades are to be communicated and presented to make them clear, understandable, and relevant to the recipient. So, as a teacher daw, kailangan meron tayong guidelines na sinusunod or yung process. Kung may tama kasing mga proseso or guidelines na sinusunod tayo mga teacher, kung paano natin maipapamahayag or maipapakita or maibibigay yung mga grades ng bata. Kung paano natin ito ipe-present sa kanila na paano nakuha tong ganitong grade ng bata. So, yung computation, so lahat yon kailangan malinaw sa mga parents. Naintindihan nila kung paano ba nakuha yung grades nila, paano ba naging ganon yung grades nila, ba tumaas or bumaba. So, kailangan lahat yun clear sa mga magulang or sa stakeholders. So, narito yung mga ilang explanation kung paano natin maiko-communicate yung test results or grades ng mga bata doon sa learners, parents, and stakeholders. So first one, the rationale or purpose of testing and the nature of the tests administered to the learners should be clearly explained. So kailangan daw pag magbibigay tayo as a teacher sa mga bata ng exam nila or test, kailangan ay malinaw nating na ipaliwanag yung mga gagawin ng bata. At syempre, kailangan yung pina-exam natin na i-discuss natin sa mga bata, and before they take the exam, kailangan lahat ng questions natin, directions, kailangan clearly explained at kailangan naiintindihan ng mga bata. The second one, the meaning of test scores should be explained. So, kailangan daw yung meaning, kailangan yung test scores ng mga bata ay clearly explained sa learners and parents. So, paano ba nila nakuha yung ganitong score? Anong puntos to? So, kailangan lahat yun na ipapaliwanag. For norm reference testing, terms such as percentile rank, standard scores, and the like should be explained clearly. So, kailangan lahat na ipapaliwanag kung ang ginamit nating pag-i-score ay percentile rank or standard scores. Similarly, standards or criteria should used for criterion referenced testing should be thoroughly described and clarified to the recipients. So, kailangan daw yung mga criteria or criterion reference or yung mga rubrics sa pag-score ng test, kailangan yun, lahat yun ay naipaliliwanag sa mga bata. Finally, learners and parents should be made to understand the meaning of interpretation of their test scores. So, kailangan na ipaliliwanag sa ating mga learners and parents at naiintindihan nila yung meaning ng score or kung ano yung ginamit nating pag-score. Kailangan alam at naiintindihan ng mga bata at ng parents nila. Teachers have better grasp of the learner's capabilities in school. So, mas maalam natin kasi ng mga teacher kung ano nga ba yung kapasidad o kakayahan ng bata kapag sila ay nasa school o nasa loob ng classroom natin. As such, they are in the best position to explain especially to the parents. So, tayong mga teacher o yung mga teacher ang pinaka may maalam or best na magi-explain kung ano nga ba ang status ng bata sa kanilang mga magulang. How far their test scores are from the classmates or other learners in other classes. So, mas maipapaliwanag ng mga teacher kung bakit ganito yung anak niya, bakit mababa siya, bakit mas mataas si ganito. So, kailangan as a teacher, meron tayo mga kompletong ebidensya na magpapakita to explain yung score ng bata at magpapatunay kung bakit ganon yung nakuha ng bata. So, how far their test from the on what topics, subjects, areas, or competencies they are good at or should improve on, and whether or not they are working up to their potential. So, yung teacher din ang may kakayahan kung saan ba mahina ang bata, anong subject ba siya mahina o magaling, ano ba yung mga objectives or competencies na kailangan pa nilang mas matutunan o mas ituro sa kanila. Ano pa ba yung kailangan i-improve nila? Ano pa yung mga potentials nila na kailangan nilang pag-ibayuhin o palaganapin paunlarin. So, lahat yun alam na teacher kasi mas laging kasama na teacher yung mga bata. sila yung nakakapag-observe ng kung ano yung ginagawa ng bata during school days or school hours. We have also the do's and don't in report card. So, we will read first the do. Use the context of assessment of learning for this report. Enter E, G, 5, or N for each of the 6 LSWH. Enter a comment if you are homeroom teacher. Collaborate with the Rotary and or itinerant teachers where applicable. Note any inconsistencies between teachers and include this as an area for improvement or next steps within comments. So example comment: in general, Jim takes responsibility for his own behavior. He is encouraged to assume the same level of responsibility in all subject areas. And also the last one, comment on those LSWH that are most relevant to the child. For those that stand out as obvious strengths or those most needing improvement, and or those that have been a focus of instruction during the term. Next, the do not. Leave the comment area blank. Enter a comment if you are a Rotary or itinerant teacher. Collaborate with the homeroom teachers so that they can comment on any inconsistencies. Next, write comments in point form. And the last one, use educator jargon that is not meaningful to parents.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmate. I am Ray Manangan. I am the last reporter. My report is about do's and don'ts in learning skills in work habits or LSWH area. Sa do's, ensure your comments align with the overall evaluation for each LSWH, AGSN, CEDO qualifiers included the LSWH package. Follow the given format for the comment area. Identify strength based on one more of the LSWH. Use information gathered from observation, conversation, and student product to share a specific example of what the student has done to demonstrate his/her strength. Identify one or more of the LSW as an area for improvement and based on this area, comment on next step, both for the classroom and at home. Complete comment using full complete sentence. Personalize much as possible. Ensure you know what personalized means refers to the LSWH package. Dito po sa LSWH, natutukoy po dito kung paano po natin i-ensure or align ang mga overall evaluation po natin as a learning skills po natin. At i-follow given format din natin yung comment area natin at i-identify din po natin yung mga strength po nila based on the one more of the LSW na gagamitin po nating information at observation po nila. Next slide, dumako naman po tayo sa do's and don't in the subject and strand area. Use the context assessment learning for this report. Determine an overall level of achievement per subject and strand as outlined in the subject and strand package. Pay particular attention to outline in the subject and requirements for mathematics, the arts, French, and history, geography. Convert the overall level of achievement a letter grade 1 to 6 or percentage grade 7 to 8 as the subject and strand package. Check NE if there is the no instruction a subject strand in term 3. Include the comment will be reported the term 2 report card. For this subject strand, checks the EIFVAX if the expectation per the subject strand have been modified from the regular program for the grade. O dito pa sa do's and don'ts subject ng strand area is dapat kailangan po natin gamitin yung context assessment learning ng mga reporter. Then, tutukoy din po sa mga outline subject and strands po nito. Nakapaloob na po dito yung mathematics, the arts, French, and the history and geography. Tapos, kailangan din natin po i-convert yung overall level achievement, a letter for the grade 1 to 6 ay tinatawag po ng percentage grade. For grade 7 to 8 as the outline the subject in strand package. Dumaan ko naman po tayo sa don'ts ng subject in strand area. Leave the comment area blank. Write comments in the point form. Use frequency and level assistance to determine a student's level of achievement. Use educator jargon that is not meaningful to parents. Simply repeat the wording, the curriculum expectation or achievement chart. Check the EIP box for a subject if the IE includes accommodation only for the subject. Use frequency and level of assistance qualifiers to describe student achievement. The only expectation to this is the active living complete within the physical education. Dito ba sa do not subject in the strand area, dapat po natin na i-simplify at i-repeat po natin yung mga wording ng curriculum expectation at achievement part sa mga learning skills din po nila. At lagi po natin i-check ang IEP box sa mga subject po natin at yung mga accommodation ng mga subject po natin. Next slide. Check the ESL, ELD box if the expectation for the subject is strand have been modified to support English language learning needs. Follow the given format. The comment area start with the strand statement that identifies what is the or will the student that demonstrate learning in achievement category of subject strand. Is there a specific example using information gathered from observation, conversation, and student products to validate this strand? Identify area for improvement and outlet specific action. Next step for the student both in the classroom and at home. Ensure that this descriptive feedback proved in the comment aligned with the student's overall level achievement. Refer to the qualifiers and description included to the subject and strand package. Dito po sa dose ng ESL at ELD box, kailangan po ng expectation po ng subject at strands po nila na ma-modified po yung kanilang English language learning sa kanilang pangangailangan at sundin natin at bigyan natin din ng format ang comment area nila at ensure din natin yung descripted at feedback proven po nila at align din po natin yung mga estudyante at overall performance and achievement po nila kung talagang qualifiers po sila sa kukunin po nilang subject and strands package. Last slides na po is complete comments using full complete sentence. Personalize much as possible. Ensure you know what personalized means. Refer to the subject and strand package. Dito po sa dose ng subject na ito is dapat complete ang comments po natin at kompleto po yung mga sentence po nila at i-personalize po natin ang posibilidad na ma-ensure din po natin ang kaalaman at personalidad ng bawat isa ng mga achievement po nila at pangangailangan nila. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.